So there's tons of different ways you can do content creation, ideas, help writing emails, help writing blog descriptions, YouTube, I mean, just you name it. And again, if you want to research a particular type of investment, you want to research a particular type of area, there's hundreds and thousands of chat GPT prompts, that you can use.
Welcome to the How to Scale Commercial Real Estate Show. Whether you are an active or passive investor, we'll teach you how to scale your real estate investing business into something big.
Dr. Jeff Anzalone is a full-time practicing periodontist in the great state of Louisiana. He's also the author and founder of DebtFreeDoctor.com. If you don't know, Jeff came on the show last on March 4th, 2021. We're recording this now May. I can't believe it's May already. May 2nd, 2023. So it's been a whole whopping, that's 26 months, Jeff, since you've come on the show. I'm sure a lot of things have changed. Welcome back to the show. It's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. Honored to be back. Hopefully provide even more value to your audience than 2 years ago.
Absolutely, Jeff. I do this as a recap, though, for every single episode, every guest that comes on the show in 90 seconds or less. Can you tell me, where did you start? Where are you now? And how did you get there?
Started as a periodontist, trading time for money. Got about 8 years ago, had a snow skiing accident, fell, injured my wrist. That was my wake-up call to basically I needed to do something to bring in other streams of income besides something that uses my hands. And long story short, started researching, found out wealthy people have multiple streams of income, wealthy people own real estate. That led me to focus that, because I'm a busy guy like most people on the show. Didn't want to be an active investor, which I'm actually now kind of dabbling into that now, but started off as a passive investor in syndications. And here we are. Started educating people on my website, and then it's grown to leaps and bounds, and love educating people and connecting with people.
Man, that's cool. I love that that journey there along the way, and it's also fun to see that you're now getting more into the active investing side of things. I always say that there's no such thing as true passive investing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but even as a passive investor, figuring out who you want to write that check to and tracking those investments, there's still keeping up with the K1s and all that stuff. There's still some work involved, even as a passive investor. But tell me, in the last 2 years, like what are some things you've been working on? What has changed? Where are you now?
Let's see. When we spoke, I started raising some capital for deals around September 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd been doing it for about 7 or 8 months when you and I spoke.
Yep.
And that has really expanded because I've gotten to meet a whole lot more groups to work with, some good, some bad, some in between. So now I'm starting to focus more on what my target audience, the people that come into my group, these are mainly physicians and dentists, but there are other high income professionals, engineers, nurses, attorneys, etc., that are too busy to really do this themselves. So as this group has grown to now, I've got about 1,800 people in my investor group and growing. It actually puts more pressure on me to be a steward of people's money. So it actually makes it even more important to go out and really find these groups, these people to work with. So for instance, I went to, and I've never been to Vegas before, went to Vegas a couple of weeks ago with a smaller group that are doing mobile home parks. We went out there was a convention. I got to meet with them. I got to see how they work with brokers. We got to, look at property. So I'm really getting involved with it, instead of just somebody emailing me going, hey, you want to raise capital for my deal? And that happens a lot. And people will, unfortunately, people will take people up on that without even getting to know them. So am I perfect? No, but I do everything I can, because I'm putting my money with these people as well. So I don't want to lose, money. So that that has changed now, with trying to really find these groups that are up and coming. That's one difference. Second difference is, um, I've become a fund manager because a lot of these groups now are wanting to do real estate funds instead of just these one-off syndications. So I'm able now to go to these groups and go and leverage my network investor size with having a fund to get potentially better returns. Basically, like, so for instance, I started a short-term rental fund last year, and I started another one this year. Well, I went to the group and they were paying, I think, a 7 pref with a 50-50 split, and I was able to negotiate better terms, an 8 pref 70-30 split, or a 9 pref with an 80-20 split, depending on how much money you invested. Hard to do that without having a fund and without having a group like that to leverage. So that's number two. And then number three is, November 2022, Chat GPT was launched, openai.com. I use it all the time now to help analyze deals, create content, check for market if I'm looking in a certain area like Sarasota, Florida, you can get all kinds of stuff. I mean, what I'm telling you right now, probably in about 2 weeks, will probably be obsolete, because it changes so fast. So it's amazing what you can do. It's amazing the people that are using it. And so those are the three main things that have changed.
That is a lot of moving pieces. I want to hear how you're using AI. Let's get into that here in a minute. But before we do that, let's kind of go back. You said something earlier. You said good, bad, and in between. Those were the 3 words that you had used to describe the various sponsors and or deals that you've been looking at and reviewing as a passive and or maybe even a fund investor. What does that mean to you, and how has your strategy changed on vetting sponsors?
I think the number one thing is, as I mentioned, I'm getting a whole lot more involved. Plus, I've met people that are very wealthy, 50, 100+ million dollar net worth people. And listening to those people, who they invest with, what they're investing in, who they're avoiding, that has helped a lot. And I understand these people can take risk, but a lot of times a lot of times they don't want to take risks. They just want to not lose money, even though they can afford to lose a lot. So, and I've gotten, I got my mobile home park group from one person like that. And so networking more has helped, finding out the people to really stay away, even though they have a great website and, they have all this stuff, the bells and whistles, they look great, but really digging deep in, finding out about them, doing a background check, anything I can, talking to their investors, to figure out, again, it's not 100% foolproof, but I'm focusing on that more, and talking a whole lot more, spending more time before I even consider working with them. Because, before I'd only been working for 7, 8 months raising capital. Now it's been almost 3 years. So, you learn a lot, you make mistakes. But my main goal is to not every deal looks the same almost on social media, and everything's a 5-year hold and a 2x equity multiple and a 7 or 8 pref. And it's like, well, how do I tell if everything looks the same? I'm like, well, I always tell people, I graduated with 58 dentists, but I want to only let about 4 or 5 of them work on me. But they're all dentists.
Right.
Meaning there's a lot of syndicators out there, but there's just a handful of them that I would work with. Right. And the $1 million question is, how do you find that? And that's what I'm trying to do.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know that there are the checklist items that you mentioned, background checks, references, investor references, deal performance, how close to their deals perform relative to the shiny brochures that we all put out when we're launching a deal. Did they meet their cash flow projections? How many exits, if any, have they had? Those things you can, but then there's also, I think, the finer art to that, the more subjective side of it, which is do I want to work with this group? What's the communication style like? Are we philosophically aligned? Those are important things too, that I think maybe, like you said, it just takes some of that massaging and that time. It's really just time, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
with those deal sponsors that you need. So that's very cool. Thank you for taking the time to share that. One thing that we've not had on the show is anybody really talking to us about how they are meaningfully using AI to help them in the real estate business. So I'd love to give you some time here just to share that with us. I had a buddy yesterday that was shooting some video here in our office, and then before the day was over yesterday, he sent me images of people at some of our facilities that were all our logo branded. I mean, they look just like you and me, real humans. And he's like, this is all AI. It's completely made up. I fed a bunch of words in and here's what I've got. I'm like, you're telling me that this person actually doesn't exist anywhere in the world? He's like, nope, this is crazy. So I want to hear what you're doing and how, and then that was just kind of for fun gimmicks. He wasn't really using it for anything purposeful. But what are you doing to use AI? You mentioned using Chat GPT for research, for underwriting, for what? Just give me the down and dirty on that.
Well, the main thing that my goal is on my website is to educate people about real estate, about different things. And by going through that process, I educate myself. Let's say I want to learn about cap rate. Well, going through the process, writing an article, publishing a YouTube video, that sort of thing, that helps me educate myself. But now you can use AI to help with content creation ideas. You can use it for, blog article outlines. I mean, you can get it to write the article for you. I don't recommend that because, Google will flag you, but just coming up with ideas, 50 different ideas from one topic, maybe it's a multifamily apartment, whatever, real estate syndication or whatever you want to do. So there's tons of different ways you can do content creation, ideas, help writing emails, help writing blog descriptions, YouTube, I mean, just you name it. And again, if you want to research a particular type of investment, you want to research a particular type of area, there's hundreds and thousands of Chat GPT prompts, that you can use. Again, this will probably be outdated after you listen to this for a couple of weeks, but still, I mean, literally, I was talking to my brother last night. He's a civil engineer and he'd never even used this. And, I pulled it up on my phone. I was like, give me a difficult problem that a typical civil engineer tries to solve or whatever, and hit it and showed it to him. And it's just spitting out all this stuff. He's like, man, that's unbelievable. So this, whatever you want help with, just think about if you're like a CEO of $1 billion company and you've got all these people, all these secretaries, all these assistants working for you, how would you talk to that person to get something done? How I want you to go do this, and you be very specific and you hit enter and that's it. And it's mind boggling.
Wow. Yeah, I've even seen YouTube videos out there, people using it to solve their Excel issues, where they're like, gosh, I can't figure out what am I doing wrong. If I want to get this, what am I doing wrong? And they'll put it in. They show you how to use Chat GPT to help solve Excel problems. I like the idea there, though, of kind of the content creation side of things, because I'm not real creative, Jeff. It's why I do an interview-based podcast, because I get to ask you questions, then you talk to me. It makes it a lot easier. I don't have to generate my own content. So I think coming up with ideas, like you said, ideas from one topic, that's brilliant. Like, hey,
well, here's an example of that. So let's say you're going to interview Joe Smith that owns a self-storage facilities and he's a podcaster and blah, blah, blah. Well, you could go into Chat GPT and go, hey, I would like for you to help me create some interview questions for a person. Do you understand? And it'll say, yeah, I understand. Give me information about it. And then you start copy and pasting stuff from podcasts, from his website, and it'll go through there and then it'll give you things to talk about. That's just one example.
That's wild.
And it takes like 60 seconds.
That's wild. And those are pre-programmed prompts, like you asked there. Do you understand?
I like the more information you can feed it, before you start asking questions, the better. So I'm feeding it information. Hey, let's say you wanted to write a business plan for like a new business or new something, or you want to do like standard operating procedures, whatever. So you need to feed it information, all about what you're trying to do, and the more information, the more information you can give it, the better outputs it's going to give you instead of being generic. So for instance, like my son is graduating from high school, and in a couple of weeks, and my wife was like, well, can you help him create like a couple of he's getting these graduation presents or whatever. He had some of our friends threw him a fiesta, like a party, graduation party. So I was very specific and said, hey, I'm a 18-year-old senior in high school. I would like for you to create a letter to my mom and dad's best friends that gave me a party for graduation. It was a fiesta, and it literally took all of that, and it was perfect. I made a few changes, but again, to get what you want, you got to put in more information about it.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Let's transition here. One of the things that you've been doing recently is your YouTube channel, and you've got I think 2,000 subscribers at this point, which is great. But part of that we talked about this offline was taking articles and creating those into videos. What's a meaningful way? I know we're spending a lot of time here on content creation, but I think this has been the thrust maybe of what you've been doing in the last 2 years, is becoming that educator, right? Is that
if you're like if you have a podcast like you can get transcripts, and then you can get Chat GPT, or you can get people that use Chat GPT to repurpose what we're talking about, repurpose your podcast to blog articles, repurpose your podcast to YouTube videos, whatever. So the way that I learn now more than ever is YouTube videos, podcasts, and then blog articles in that order.
Right.
So I was like, I've got these, I've got all these articles. So why not convert them over to YouTube videos?
Right.
So I went ahead and I did that. And I think I've got 160 something videos now. I try to publish 1 or 2 a week.
Yeah.
And I can tell, if you're trying to educate people out there, you're going to build a lot more trust quicker, because you can see somebody and you can see how they interact versus just reading a generic article. And I really like that about YouTube.
Right. No, I couldn't agree more. So you're taking these articles, you've already written them. How do you just restructure the video? Or, I mean, obviously you're not going to read it word for word, because that's boring.
But this is going to be funny. I'm going to give you a hack that I've never even told anybody before.
All right.
You can copy your article, you can copy anybody's article and paste it into Chat GPT and go, I want you to rewrite this article below. And I usually do this, and you're going to laugh, but it really helps. I want you to give this, I want you to rewrite this article for an audience of either 6th or 7th graders into a YouTube video, and give me like a catchy introduction or whatever. And it really dumbs it down for you, like depreciation.
Right.
I mean, sometimes that's hard to explain. It's like, depreciation is like a gift from the government, and it just, it really dumbs it down for you, but it'll convert it for you. So it'll sound more like a video than you sitting there reading it, word for word. I do that all the time.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah. And you're so right. Because that is, again, going back to what you've been doing, not just, obviously raising your funds and doing that, but on the education side of things. I mean, I had this very conversation with a very intelligent attorney friend of mine yesterday that just couldn't quite get his head wrapped around the idea that he has a phantom loss on one of his investments last year due to bonus depreciation. He's like, wait, you put 50 grand, and he's like, how do I have a $45,000 write-off from this deal last year? I'm like, well, depreciation, bonus. He's like, so wait, but I got distributions last year. It's just the whole, how do you explain that to someone? I love that hack. That's a lot of fun. When you talked early on, when you're now negotiating better terms with your deal sponsors, because you guys can come to them now as a single check investor, a large investor. Are you doing this on a fund of funds model? Is that the way you're working that?
Yes, I am.
Okay. That's really, really cool. Can you maybe shed some more light to that and tell us kind of how you go about negotiating those better terms, what deal sponsors are typically looking for? I know we've got just a couple minutes left here, but I didn't want to leave that rock unturned. So yeah, if you can break that down for us, I think that would be insightful.
Yeah, so, sometimes if it's like, so for instance, if it's $100,000 minimum, a lot of times people are more comfortable with like a $50,000 minimum to get started. So I'll start there. Can you lower your minimum? Can you give a better preferred return? Can you anything that you can anything that I can do based on what they're already offering, whether it's one part, two parts, or luckily with the short-term rental, it was like all three. I was able to negotiate all different parts when it sells. I was able to negotiate like, hey, if you invest like $100,000 or more within a certain time period, you get a better preferred return versus if you wait later in the year. So there's all different creative ways. Again, you could, and I've never done this, but now that I'm thinking about it, you could basically take, and I'll probably will do this next time I are negotiating. I can take the term somebody's offering, put it in Chat GPT, and ask it, hey, what are some better terms that I can negotiate this group based on these returns, and just see what it says, just to give me ideas,
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. What are you finding for those that maybe don't do the fund of funds model? What are you finding the minimum kind of check size need to be for sponsors to say, all right, yeah, we can come to the table and start negotiating better terms?
The smaller sponsors, million and a half. The larger ones, probably 5 million or more, is what I'm seeing.
Right.
And another thing, the reason why I like finding some of these smaller sponsors are we can get better returns because they're not having to pay $100,000 a month in marketing fees to go out and run Facebook ads and Google ads to get investors. These people aren't paying anything, so they're like, okay, well, if I don't have this huge budget, I can give more return. Like I found a guy that's an attorney and a dentist together. They were doing RV parks together. And now I taught them about syndications, and I introduced them to my SEC attorney. We're, our IRRs are like 34% that we're getting. And it's like, where can you get that? It's because you find these people that are, these needle in the haystack people that are just killing it. And it's just from getting out there and networking, and I love finding people like that because they're excited because now they can expand, because I've taught them how to do a fund. I've taught them how to do a syndication instead of just them using their own money,
That's really, really cool. Jeff, you've taught us so many things here today. It's been a blast having you come here back on the show. Certainly enjoyed it as much the second time around as we did on the first episode a couple of years ago. If our listeners want to get in touch with you and learn more about you, what is the best way to do that?
They can go to my website, debtfreedoctor.com. I have if they want to start getting articles, YouTube videos, that sort of thing, they can go to debtfreedr.com/free, FREE, free guide. Download our passive income guide. They'll automatically be put in the system and start getting the emails.
Fantastic. We'll make sure we include that there in the show notes. Jeff, thank you again for coming on the show today. This was a blast. I certainly appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Hey, thanks for listening to the How to Scale Commercial Real Estate podcast. If you can do me a favor and subscribe and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, whatever platform it is you use to listen, if you can do that for us, that would be a fantastic help to the show. It helps us both attract new listeners as well as rank higher on those directories. So appreciate you listening. Thanks so much, and hope to catch you on the next episode.